It would be very nice if some of you would write back stories to Richard and to me. And if you want to make a video, we would love that too and share it with everybody. Now, how many of you, raise your hands, how many of you remember the pine tree out in front of Oakhurst School? There was a monument there. If you were there when I was the principal, you know that every Memorial Day we would go out to that memorial. It was in memory of a Oakhurst student who had died in World War I. And so we always use that as our place to pay homage to all of the soldiers who died, and we did that on Memorial Day, near Memorial Day. Anyhow, there were these two pine trees right in front, and we took lots of pictures. The press would come, or Mr. Hazelrig would come, and we would take pictures to advertise the fair, the Oakhurst School Fair. That was so famous all over. Everybody from all over the town came to that fair. It was the best. And it was wonderful. And we had these pictures. And one year, Mrs. Curtis, David Curtis's mother, was the president of the PTA. And the vice president, I believe, was Mrs. Hazelrig. And we came out the front door and down those little creaky steps, stone steps, and as we were walking to take the picture near that monument advertising Oakhurst School Fair, we passed under the trees. And I, being polite, because that's what my mother told me to do, let the ladies go first. And all of a sudden, one of the tree branches catches on to Mrs. Curtis's hair, and she was wearing a wig. It was early in the morning, so I guess she didn't want to do her hair, so she had put on this wig. So now the wig is attached to the tree, swaying in the breeze. Mrs. Curtis doesn't know anything about it, and I start to laugh because I didn't know what else to do. And we all laughed. Hardest of all, Mrs. Curtis. We had a good laugh that day. But all kinds of things used to happen like that at Oakhurst School. It was a very unusual place to be, and lots of fun and laughs. Now, do you remember that the lunches used to be delivered from Dow Avenue and from the high school to Oakhurst to feed the boys and girls at lunchtime? Now, they always came late. It was lunch hour, none of the food was there. We had a wonderful lady when I was there, Mrs. McGrath, Edna McGrath. Oh, she was so sweet and so kind. And she used to come up, she didn't want to upset me, but say, you know, the time is coming and the food isn't here. So I called the powers to be, and they said, well, they'll have the truck, the people, the men who brought the lunches over in the truck to call me. Well, they didn't call me. They came over and they said, well, sorry, Mr. Vneburg. I think they felt Mr. Vneburg was a pain in their, well, anyhow, Mr. Vneburg said to them, well, I don't understand. Well, they said, we don't want your food to be cold, so you're the last to be delivered. I said, do you deliver the food in heated trucks? And they said, no. I said, well, wouldn't they stay warmer inside the school than they would in a cold truck circling around the township to Wanamassa and I don't know where else? Oh, well, we just thought you wouldn't want the lunches too early. I said, I'll take the lunches when they're ready. But they're cold and they're late, so they don't have to be both. Now, I think they changed it. I don't know. They weren't very cooperative. But then, of course, maybe I was in the way of the boys and girls and central administration, because I did some things that really got on their nerves when I was the principal of Oakhurst School. I think I told you about the time Jimmy Carter wanted us to count the Native Americans and this, and I refused to do it. Well, one year it must have been before Wayside School, I don't remember. Well, we went on part-time. Shouldn't be part-time. We went on double session, which meant that the 5th grades came in the mornings and stayed till 12:30. The 6th graders at the time, we had them, they came, because there was nowhere else to send them, they came at 11:30. So there was an hour that there was nothing for the teachers, the 5th grade teachers, to do. And they had to say, according to contract, so many hours at school. And Dr. Scott was the principal, and he said to us all at a meeting, well, you may have teachers there, but I want you to use them. It is not a free period. You must find a way, tutoring, whatever you decide, but they have to be practicing their profession, which was teaching. So I devised a plan that when the 6th grades came, they would have gym first. Okay? So that would occupy them. Then the 6th grade teachers and the 6th graders stayed till like 4:30 or something in the afternoon. It was very late. Then, when the 5th graders were finished, half of them went out to have gym. The 6th graders are now in the classrooms, and the 5th graders were divided. Half of them went to gym, and half of them were divided into 5th grade, these are 6th graders now, 5th grade mini groups. The PTA, when I told them what I wanted to do, I said, do you have any ideas? Well, yes. How about teaching small groups of the kids to type? I said, well, we don't have any typewriters. Well, if you find a typing teacher, we will get the typewriters. So we got typewriters. Mrs. Bradley was a teacher at the time. I have more stories about Mrs. Bradley. She was funny stories. Anyhow, Mrs. Bradley had a big map. We bought a big map for her classroom, and we did she made all kinds of games and geography. I thought of her name today, Anne Desolette, was the music teacher, and you had them 5-week cycles, and she taught the boys and girls how to play flutophone. And then we had the art teacher, Mrs. Lewis. She taught something. So everybody, and then you switched. The children who had the special mini courses, we called them, went out to gym. The others came back in, and that's for these second group of mini courses, and that was it. Well, they didn't like that at all in the other elementary schools. And next time, I'll tell you why.